So, Baba counting starts. Start.
Good morning. My name is Minu Rosi Varkis and I'm roll number 31. So, domestic flying to Cosmo. So, from the heading itself, it is very clear that the expense for the flight fares are going to be increasing. So, this domestic flights will be more expensive with the Directorate of General of Civil Aviation enhancing the minimum and maximum fares that domestic airlines can charge in the 7 categories into which domestic routes are divided. That is, it will increase in the region for 10% for one-way fare, and for that is for flights less than 40 minutes, and 30% maximum fare for flights between 180 to 210 minutes. The revised fares will be charged from Thursday. So in May 2020, these aviation regulators had directed the airlines to set at least 40% of its tickets on a flight at prices less than midpoint of the lower and upper limits. Back then, the government had asked the airlines to operate a maximum of 33% of their flight charges on pre-COVID-19 domestic flights. So this operation cap was increased a month later on June 26 to 45%, before raising it to 80% level gradually. So the Civil Aviation Ministry on Thursday kept the 80% limit in effect till March. This order affected immediately and comes at a time when airlines are starting at a traditionally weak quarter of January or March, along with uncertain demand of cement. So this domestic air traffic on February 10 was at 67% of average daily domestic traffic seen in 2019. It is also important to look at the latest financials of major domestic airlines to understand the domestic aviation picture. This cap was set on a base fare, and above the base fare, the passenger will have to pay taxes, including GST, user development fee, and service fee, among other charges. Thank you.
Okay. You can tell your roll number and summary of the content. Okay,
My
good. 33.
31, roll number 31.
Yes, 31 over. Next, 33.
Yes, sir. So my roll number is 33. I'm Neeraj Jonathan. My topic was SEBI's proposal on rejected directors are welcome. In order to safeguard shareholders' interests, the Securities and Exchange Board of India released a consultation paper in January on the appointment or reappointment of individuals who are elected as full-time directors, managing directors by the shareholders. It has been standard practice for corporations to nominate managing directors and full-time directors after obtaining the consent of shareholders by the means of two separate resolutions. One for appointment as director under section 152 and one for the appointment as MD or whole-time directors along with terms and conditions for their appointment. SEBI has observed this. There has lately been a few cases of such denial. Shareholders of Lakshmi Vilas Bank, which was later absorbed by DBS Bank, opposed the decision to name 7 directors, including the managing director and CEO, as well as formal auditors at annual general meeting in September 2020. Similarly, the shareholders of Dhanalakshmi Bank has voted against the appointment of Sunil Gurbakshini, managing director and chief executive officer of the already existing company. In the case of Manpasan Beverages, the shareholders opposed the reappointment of MD, full-time director, and independent director. But within 3 days of the refusal, the company had reappointed them for a term of 5 years. As the company did not conduct any shareholders meeting for the reappointment, SEBI released an order directing the company to hold a meeting to receive their permission from the shareholders. Pointing to the restrictions set up in the Companies Act, the regulator noticed that the board of directors of a listed company may, in such situation, continue to recommend the appointment of individuals to certain positions, even though they have been rejected by the shareholders. In certain cases, one of these cases is that the appointment and remuneration company within the company would make a thorough decision on such a plan. Secondly, considering the refusal of the owners, the board would consider and accept the resolution after recording the reasons for its appointment. Thirdly, the consent of the committee along with the reasons of for its appointment has to be stated to the stock exchange within 24 hours. Four, The consent of the shareholders must be obtained within 3 months at the next general meeting. In the event of further denial, a person needs to be not recommended again as the director of the organization for a term of 2 years. Likewise, reappointment cannot be proposed. These reforms are in right direction and would tone up corporate governance, since in the future there will be more assertive voting by shareholders due to proxy consulting services and media
Okay,
attention.
Neeraj.
Yes,
Next.
sir.
Students, within a minute you have to complete. Okay, next, start.
Uh, Good morning, everyone. My topic is about gift ideas. So the changes made in the budget to taxation of foreign investors operating in the GIFT International Financial Service Center, that is IFSC, along with the recent move by the RBI to allow domestic investors to invest there, show that the center and the central bank are acting in tandem to make the Indian IFSC an active offshore investment hub. This only does a vibrant IFSC aid domestic companies raise funds from overseas investors and help the center garner additional revenue over the long term. It helps shift the overshore trading of rupee to India, giving authorities greater control over rupee movement. The tax incentives already given to entities operating from here and the establishment of an international dispute resolution mechanism and the IFSC authority have ensured that GIFT IFSC can compete with other offshore business centers in operating cost, ease of doing business, and governance. What is now needed is to improve participation and increase the array of products. The RBI's permission to resident individuals to make remittances to the IFSC under the liberalized remittance scheme with the purpose of purchasing securities issued by non-resident entities will improve demand of products issued at the IFSCs.
Okay, thank you, Nikshida.
Thank
Next, 36.
Yeah, so good morning, everyone. I'm Pratik, roll number 36. So my topic for today is retail inflation at 16-month low in January. With a dip in vegetable and sugar prices, the retail inflation sink to this month low of nearly 4% in January. CPI, that is Consumer Price Index, continued to slide in January and has now touched 4%. It is the lowest after 4.62% in October 2019. Inflation of non-food products are expected to rise, and the reason for it is mostly because of the crude oil prices. So as we all know, the crude oil prices are increasing. So this will indirectly affect the prices of the food products, and there will be a rise in inflation of the non-food product prices also. And coming to the manufacturing sector has been seeing growth, increasing growth, and it is expected to go to rise. And also this also led to the increase in electricity consumption and production. And this is the
Okay,
news.
thank you. Next, 37. 37 is absent. Okay, move on to 38.
Yes, sir. So, good morning, everyone. My topic is to cater to SMEs and MSMEs. Razorpay creates 650 new jobs. So, Razorpay, a company that currently powers payments for over 5 million businesses, including Facebook, Airtel, BookMyShow, and so on, among others, is all set to reach 10 million businesses and $50 billion in total payment volume by 2022. This newly minted fintech unicorn, Razorpay, has created 650 new job opportunities to meet the constantly growing payment and banking needs of SMEs, MSMEs, and freelancers. Of the 650 new positions, for both freshers and lateral entries across all levels, 350 will be towards expanding the engineering and product teams, and the rest for customer experience, sales, and marketing teams. Last year, Razorpay hired over 550 employees and witnessed threefold growth. It also creates cross-functional growth opportunities for its existing employees who will continue to work remotely for the next couple of months. Chitbhanu Nagri, the Senior Vice President, People Operations at Razorpay, said that due to the rising adoption of digital payments during COVID-19 and thousands of businesses going online for the first time, there's a lot of scope for interesting innovations in business payments for the undeserved businesses across the country, which is something Razorpay has been working towards. So thank
Okay,
you.
thank
That's
you.
my
Next.
1 minute talk.
Next, 39. Rima,
Yes, sir.
yeah, start. Unmute and start.
Okay. Cash is king, but digital is divine. This is how the Reserve Bank of India describes India's financial model. So my topic is cash is king in town, even as a metro go digital. Cash continue to be king in most small cities and towns, even as the dependency on hard currency has dipped into metro cities. Digital is growing at about 30% to 40%, but cash is also growing at 14% and also a healthy growth outside metro like Delhi and Mumbai. This could possible because of reserve migrations where people have moved back to smaller towns, as well as some increase in discretionary spends. Numbers tracked by CMS Infosystem. CMS means Computer Maintenance and Service Infosystem, which is an ATM and cash management company, reveals that there is a dip of about 20% in cash usage in metro cities. But there is flat growth or even an increase of 8% to 10% in other cities. State Bank of India has moved its entire network to a multi-vendor software solution implemented by CMS Infosystem. The solution was built for SBI by CMS and it's running across its entire 40,000 ATM network and has helped centralize the bank's ATM channel and management. CMS also won the project almost 18 to 20 months ago, and it has now been running successfully for last 4 to 5 months. So we can say that cash use in urban area hit by the pandemic lockdown. So from conclusion, we can say that over the next few years, cash in circulation will grow in line with GDP growth as India is predominantly cash economy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Or to Richu.
Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone. So today I'll be talking about the Grasim Industries net doubles on higher realization. Grasim Industries, an Aditya Birla Group company, which is an textile industry, has reported that its consolidated net profit more than doubled in the December quarter to 1,040 crore to rupees 2,152 crore. Now, when it comes to its standalone basis, its net profit zoomed to rupees 359 crore, even as the sales were down 5% at rupees 3,672 crore. Now, its revenue was up to 13% because the revenue from VSF stands staple fiber, also known as viscose fiber yarn, which was down 2% at rupees 2,145 crore. And when it comes to its viscose fiber yarn, its sales were flat at 10 million tons. Now, when it comes to the demand in India and overseas, VSF markets recovered after the sharp decline due to economic slowdown at the start of this fiscal, and the capacity utilization of the VSF business reached 100% through December quarter, and the capacity utilization of the viscose fiber yarn business also increased to 76%. Thank you. Over to
Okay.
next roll number.
Ritvij. Ritvij.
Yeah, good morning, sir. Yeah, so today's my topic is so Ashok Leyland hopes to achieve better volume growth this quarter. As in truck bus makers, Ashok Leyland indicates that production would be impacted if the shortage of semiconductors persisted in the global automotive, as the company hopes to achieve better volumes. Growth both in the domestic and export markets during the current quarter. Also, he said the global auto industry has been affected by constraints in the supply of electronic control units owing to global shortage of semiconductors. The Indian auto industry is no exception, and we are closely monitoring with supply. This can have impact train do ease. Vipin Solik said due growth in the
Okay, Ritvij, enough.
Third
We'll move
quarter,
on to next,
Ashok
Preeti.
Leyland sees prospect to improve
Ritvij,
its sales.
Ritvij, enough. Okay. Think some network issue. Over to Preeti, roll number 44.
Good morning, sir. Taffy is the world's third largest tractor manufacturer and second largest in India by volumes with an annual sale of about 150,000 tractors. It is one of the leading exporters of tractors from India with a turnover in excess of 93 billion. The current CEO is Malika Srinivasan. Its products and services are present in over 100 countries, including developed countries in Europe and in America. The features of the new tractors are: the new tractor provides an extendable wheelbase, which makes it suitable for agricultural, haulage, and commercial applications for around the year's usage. It offers maximum ground clearance, making it best in class for all terrain operations, including puddling and easy crossing of bunds. Its long wheelbase and heavy-duty front bumper provides more stability while handling heavy-duty equipment like loaders and dozers with ease. That's it, sir.
Okay, over to Sanoj.
Yes, sir. Uh, Social media website Facebook will soon foray into the smartwatch world. The company is reportedly going to develop a smartwatch with features including messaging and a fitness tracker. The wearable will support cellular connectivity. This will likely be launched next year. Facebook sets its eyes on making watches as the company believes that wearables are one of the biggest markets after smartphones. So one of the features of the watch will be messaging. And since Facebook owns 3 messaging platforms, that is WhatsApp, Facebook, and Instagram, it will all be integrated into the watch and everything can be used in the watch itself. So the watch will run on an Android version for some time until Facebook OS could operate in the year 2023. That's also.
Okay, Sanaj, but you are not showing your colorful face, no? Why?
Sir, I forgot, sir.
Okay, over to Moses.
Yes, good morning, everyone. This is Moses Johnson, roll number 46. My topic for today is an article from Big Story, where Shankar Narain, the CIO of ICICI Prudential, states that we are in the midst of a strong earning catch-up. Now, coming to the topic that is being discussed is regarding to returning inflation, which is considered to be the only cloud on the horizon, according to Narain. Now, the consumer price index rose to about 7.35% in December 2018. This rate of inflation comes at a time when the government is already saddled with the decade's lowest rate of growth at 5%. This has forced the Reserve Bank of India to come up with tight monetary policy. Now, coming to some of the major current inflation rate rise is about the food inflation and the untimely rains and droughts in some areas, and also the transmission of global food prices and the untimely imports and pulses. Now another cause is the 80 million tons of government procurement, which has failed to get distributed in the public distribution system. And the RBI has already adopted to this by the modern monetary policy framework 2016-17, which is mainly targeted at inflation. So at a time when the consumption expenditure data shows rising poverty along with declining wages, climbing inflation will only lead to increasing vulnerability, making an economic recovery harder. Thank you.
Okay, good. Or to Cheryl. Cheryl.
Good morning, sir. So today I'll be talking about the SBI Equity Hybrid Fund. So before I start, the hybrid mutual fund is a mix of equity and debt. So it helps investors follow asset allocation, like whether to choose equity or debt. So it helps take away the impulsiveness and make the decision more process-based, and it's suitable for business people who like to invest in risky parts, and the investment is at least 5 years. So among the top hybrid mutual funds, SBI's hybrid fund is the top performer. And this has been stated by the 5-star business line portfolio star trend MF rating. So SBI Equity Hybrid Fund was earlier known as SBI Magnum, and its equity exposure is 69% and its debt exposure is around 80%. Now, this is a well-diversified portfolio, and it has its equity exposures among various sectors. And the top 5 sectors are the financial sector, IT, pharmaceuticals, oil, and gas. And SBI Equity Hybrid Fund, it outperformed all its peers over the 3-year and 5-year rolling period over the 7 years, and its average rate of return is 11.6, and 5-year rolling return is 11.2%.
Okay, okay, over to Sivasankar. Sivasankar,
Yes, sir.
start.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, you. I'm Shivashankar. My roll number is 48. Today, my topic is about children are having a big say in family purchases. Are children really important factors in the household buying decisions, and how brand aware are they? Indeed, they are a big influence in family purchasing patterns. Children as a single group encompass a broad section of the consumer base, and there are clear subsegments within the larger base of young consumers. The child influence on a purchase decision varies according to the cognitive development associated with physical age and increases as parents yield more to the opinion of older children. According to Professor Ridhuparna Basu, Associate Professor of Marketing, Retail and Entrepreneurship at International Management Institute, Kolkata, instead of parents, consumption patterns socializing the child to become a consumer, the child preference are increasingly guiding the parents' consumption behavior. So children across age groups and their changing priorities have become an important consideration set to be factored by marketers while they were planning promotion for products and services meant for family consumption. That's all, sir.
Okay, good. Next, over to 49, Smita.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
So, my name is Smita Thomas, roll number 49. So, today's article, which I'm going to read about, 3D printing has a future, but India needs an integrated approach to keep up pace with global manufacturing. So, what is 3D printing and AM? Additive manufacturers, better known as 3D printing, or producing product by adding material layer by layer, in currently at a technology and economic inflation point. AM offers tremendous advantage in terms of design freedom on demand production and low development lead times, while avoiding traditional process such as cutting, grinding, milling, and welding. AM can design any product which they want. For example, if you want a cooling channel in a die in conventional manufacture, you can only drill a straight hole, but not only a helical channel. Followed by aerospace and biomedical sector was a very early adapter of AM, which is known as additive manufacture. However, many aspects of AM are not yet well understood and hence they are challenged. For example, AM will only enable of building of required geometric but not always functional qualified component. The realization of additive manufactured component required a concentrate effect through the whole value chain of designing AM building strategies for complex shapes and homogenic of properties for post-processing, testing and qualification, etc. That's it, sir. Thank you.
Okay, good. Over to Steny.
Yes, sir. Good morning, all. So my article is that SEBI may get a chance to oversee unlisted subsidiaries of these listed companies. So the Ministry of Corporate Affairs may give some leeway to the Securities Board of Exchange, that is SEBI, to regulate these unlisted subsidiaries of the listed companies. So at present, SEBI is not looking after any unlisted subsidiaries of these listed companies. So for this, the government may allow certain sections of regulations that is amended and the powers given to SEBI in order to look after these unlisted subsidiaries. So the businesses are of these unlisted companies are diverting funds in order to evade taxes, and they are doing a lot of frauds and in order to evade taxes. So in order to avoid that, the government is giving powers to regulate these unlisted companies. So the cases such as insider trading is also looked after by SEBI. So in order to regulate that more controllably, so to do that is what these regulations are looked after by SEBI. So thus the government body says that if MCA does not cede ground to SEBI on the critical issues of regulating unlisted companies, then any such guidelines will have to be formed, keeping international standards in mind. That's all about my topic. Thank you.
Okay, good. Or to Swati.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Myself, Swati Vikraman, and my topic is Amazon integrates the pantry with Fresh in India, provide the groceries in 2 hours. Amazon India on Friday said it is integrating its pantry and freight services in cities including the Delhi, Bangalore, Ahmedabad, and Mysore to offer a simplified grocery shopping experience to the customers. It will be available for the customers in Bangalore, Delhi, and Ahmedabad and Mysore over the next 2 weeks, and other cities where the Fresh is serving in the coming months, a statement said. Customer love the 2-hour convenience of Fresh for daily grocery and unmatched pantry savings when they shop for the dry grocery. We are excited to integrate these services in a single online grocery store, thus allowing the customers to enjoy the unmatched convenience and value, said the Siddharth Nambiar, the Amazon Indian director. The company said that there will be no minimum order value for the customers who are shopping at the integrated Fresh store. For its 2-hour express delivery services, order of 600 above will be delivered without the charges, and while those under the 600 will have a delivery charges of 29. This segment also witnessed the growth as e-commerce platforms were allowed to deliver only the grocery and healthcare items during the lockdown that was put in place in March last year to curb the spread of coronavirus infection. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, good. Or to Tirtha. Tirtha.
Yes, sir. My name is Tirtha and I'm roll number 33. So the major port authorities bill to give a fillip to PSU ports, says the experts. So the passing of the major port authorities bill 2020 in Rajya Sabha this week paves the way for public sector ports by their private counterparts, mainly on the tariff front. So the major PSU ports were hamstrung due to the regulation laid down by the tariff authority for major ports that were not applicable to the private ports. So the government made it clear that the tariff role has significantly lessened, and a reference to tariff public-private partnership binding would be set up by the new board. Currently, there are 11 port functions under the trust under the law frame more than 5 decades ago. The new bill, when signed into the law, seeks to grant a greater autonomy and flexibility to the major ports and to professionalize their governance for the speedier decision making. Thank you.
Okay, over to Tejas.
Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone. My topic for today is gold loses sheen on dollar rebound. Platinum rally takes a breather. So here, the gold slipped as the rebound on Friday, and platinum took a higher breather after expectations of a rebound in the industrial demand drove a rally to more than 6-year peak. So after 6 years, platinum has rebounded and has come up to has taken a breather, and due to the rebound by gold, the rebound of dollar, the gold has lost its price a bit and losing its spot almost 0.5%. That is all. That is about 1,816.40 an ounce. But today, as on 15th, the gold has rebounded a bit more, and dollar has got a hit a little and slipped a bit. And but as on 13th, the topic for me, gold futures were down by 0.6 cent at 1,816.30. The inverse relationship between gold and the dollar has been strong recently, and the rebound in the dollar has had a negative impact. This was said by David Maiden, who is a marketing analyst at CMC Markets UK. The dollar edged up to 0.2%, reducing gold's appeal to buyers holding other currencies. but any day gold would have a higher chance of rebounding. So dollars, even if dollars rebound, it would be just about 0.2% to 0.5%. In short term, there is a little to suggest that prospects for gold will brighten, as this would require inflation risk to increase noticeability. Still, expectations on an economic stimulus package in the United States help to keep gold prices on a course of a weekly rise in 3. Platinum has had a rise and is still staying strong after 6 months and a 6-year package. Thank you, sir.
Okay, over to Thomas.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Thomas Varghese, roll number 55. And today my topic is International Bullion Exchange come to this year. International Bullion is the first country's international bullion exchange is set up in 2021 with a single constitution of market infrastructure intermediates operating it. It is said by the International Financial Service Center Authority Chairman N.J. Srinivas on this Friday. During the bell ringing ceremony to mark the listing of India's Railway Finance Corporation Limited under $750 million 10-year bond at Indian International Exchange, Srinivas said that the regulation for bullion exchange has been notified. The exchange will operate based on a model called allocated and non-unallocated bullion. However, there will be underlying security backing the unallocated bullion. Srinivas order. Commenting on the development, Indian INX Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer V. Balasubramanian added that a single entity owned by a consortium of MIS will run the International Bullion Exchange. And also, the IFC's chairman Srinivas said that a lot of streamlining of regulation and innovation is taking place to make GIFT IFC a preferred destination for existing established international financial institution and thank you.
Okay, good. Over to Akila.
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone. My name is Akila Mohan, roll number 1. So today I'm going to present an article about Goldbell. So Goldbell to invest over $70 million over the next years to refresh, expand Blue SG fleet. So Singapore-based Goldbell Group on Friday, that is February 5th, confirmed plans to acquire electric car sharing firm Blue SG, saying it will invest more than $70 million into expanding the firm's business and technical capabilities over the next 5 years. Goldbell said it expects the acquisition to be finalized by August, with French conglomerate Bolloré Group, which Blue SG is a subsidiary of, continuing to manage operations until then. Blue SG was launched in 2017 as a part of National Electric Car Sharing Scheme with the Land Transport Authority and Singapore Economic Development Board. It currently has about 650 vehicles and more than 1,200 charging points island-wide. The 40-year Goldbell Group, meanwhile, is Singapore's largest commercial vehicle leasing company, whose subsidiaries include on-demand mobility startups SWAT and Exquire, which specialize in autonomous warehousing solutions. Speaking to CNA on Friday, Goldbell Chief Executive Officer Arthur Chua said Bolloré will continue to run Blue SG's existing electric vehicle (EV) charging infrastructure even as Goldbell takes over the car sharing business. The DNA of Goldbell, our domain expertise is in vehicles. It is fleet management and mobility. We invest only in what we understand, he said. He declined to reveal how much the deal is worth, but he said the $20 million to $25 million estimate previously reported as reported. So that's about it. Thank you so much.
Okay, over to Alan. Alan Thomas. Alan Thomas. Then absent. But his name is displaying. Then roll number 3 absent 4. Alina. Alina.
Yes, sir.
Yes, start.
Okay.
So my topic is AEML to bring additional 2000 megawatt electricity to Mumbai to prevent the outages. So earlier during Union Power Ministry and Maharashtra CM Uddhav Thackeray, they have ordered an inquiry after the Mumbai was hit by a massive power of outage on the last day, and people in many parts of Mumbai complained about the major blackout affecting the local trains and other essential services. So with Mumbai's demand for this electricity expected to touch 5,000 megawatt in the near future, and present transmission capacity at only 2,700 megawatt, the Adani Electricity Mumbai Limited AEML is working on a plan to bring additional power from the national grid to the metropolis with the help of other stakeholders. And after the takeover of the company, AEML has already invested almost 1,500 crore to upgrade the system and to bring it on par with the global peers. And that was said about the Kandar Patel, CEO and MD of AEML, in an interview with Dev Chatterjee and Aditi Divekar. And that's about my topic. Thank you.
Okay, good, Alina. Moving on to Angela Jason.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good morning, all. So my topic is how S&P 500 Nasdaq ended the records on the optimism for the new US stimulus. So on Friday, Wall Street stock grabbed a strong week with fresh record fueled by with an optimism over more than physical stimulus spending and progress on coronavirus vaccines. The broad-based S&P 500 finished up to 0.4% at 388.83, while the tech-rich Nasdaq Composite Index climbed 0.6% to 13.865. Both were all-time highs. The Dow Jones Industrial average gained 0.3% to 31.148. Analysts said President Joe Biden US $1.9 trillion federal relief package picked up movement from Friday's US job report. And the closely watched job data showed the unemployment rate dropped to 6.3% in January, but the economy added only 49,000 jobs, the Labor Department said this Friday. Also, economist Joel Nefrov expects that Washington to produce another relief package within the next few weeks. The economy is being supported by the federal bank, and the markets are reaping the rewards. Adding to that, the positive movement was newly that Johnson & Johnson submitted an application with the US health authorities for emergency authorization of its new COVID-19 vaccine. That's it, sir.
Okay, good, Angela. Then over to Angeline.
Yes, sir. Yes. Good morning, everyone. So my topic is how tax benefit on medical expenses and how family size and members' health condition can have effects on it. So since the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic, there has been an increase in the awareness about medical insurance. Those who never had any medical insurance or were underinsured are now buying health insurance for themselves and for their families. Now, as we all know, the premium you pay for health insurance qualifies for tax deduction under the Income Tax Act. The amount of deduction we can avail varies depending upon our family size, and also health condition of our family members can be a deciding factors on tax benefit. Now, I'm going to talk about the different provisions of the Income Tax Act. Now, firstly, about provisions under Section 80D. As per the provisions of this section, one can claim up to 5,000 rupees deduction in a year on preventive health checkups for self and for family members, provided that all the insured persons are aged below 60. However, if you or a family members are senior citizens, you can claim deductions up to 50,000 rupees on health insurance premium and preventive health checkups. Now, talking about provisions under Section 80DD, this section will be applicable if you have any dependent having disability. The deductions we can claim here are up to 75,000 on medical expenditures made for such dependents. And in the case of severe disability, you can claim up to 1 lakh rupees as deduction in a financial year. Provisions under Section 80DDB. In case the taxpayer or any of his dependents has any diseases like neurological diseases, cancer, AIDS, chronic renal failure, or any hematological diseases, he can claim deductions up to 40,000 in a year on medical expenditures on these treatments. Now, lastly, on provisions under Section 80U, as per this section, if the taxpayer himself is a person with disability, he can claim the same deductions as available to dependent with disabilities under Section 80DD. So that's upon my
Okay,
topic,
ma,
sir.
good.
Thank you.
Over to who is next? Anisha over. Then Anjana.
Yes, sir.
Hmm.
Good morning to all present. My topic is RNDI working group backs for the introductions of index-linked insurance plan. So, a working group of Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India has called for the needs to reintroduce the index-linked insurance products. This come at a time when the investment markets are violated and resulting in customers' preference guarantee returns. This in turns has increased the balance sheet risk of the insurers. Hence, the working group is the opinion that the index-linked insurance product can be an appropriate alternative for or a complementary option to the current conventional guarantee products and unit-linked policies. The regulatory had prevented insurance firms from the selling these products in 2013. Prior to that, the insurers were aggressively selling such products. So it was preserved that these products had a unit-linked structures, while the risk was being borne by the policy holders. So the insurers kept selling them as a traditional saving plans. So most these plans were linked to GSECs as the benchmarkers. And in the current context, the group has suggested different variants of product structures where possible. And starting from the one which are simple, like linked to GSECs or a fixed income, indicates to more complicated structures. Thank you.
Okay, over to Janani.
Good morning, everyone. I'm roll number 10, and I'll be talking about borrowers needing fair rates, not just waiver.
You must switch on your video.
Sir, my net is unstable. Is it okay if I?
Okay, proceed.
Thank you, sir. With portability, a large number of borrowers will move to 1 to 2 percentage points lower rate and enjoy handsome savings. A petition regarding the matter of lenders charging interest for the 6-month moratorium period granted to borrowers is currently being heard in the Supreme Court. The petitions are demanding that the interest accrued during the moratorium be waived. The lenders have correctly argued that the interest cannot be waived as they continue to pay interest to their depositors. The government has reportedly agreed to bear the compound interest for the moratorium period. The cost of this concession being provided to retail and MSME loans of up to rupees 2 crore has been estimated at rupees 6,000 crore. Thank you.
Okay, over to Anthony Babu.
Yes, sir. Good morning, one and all. Today I'll be giving a 1-minute talk on the topic SBI Mutual Fund targets to collect rupees 2,000 crore from retirement scheme. Largest asset manager, SBI Mutual Fund, on Tuesday said it is targeting to raise up to rupees 2,000 crore from investors through a newly launched scheme, which will help create retirement corp. SBI Retirement Benefit Fund, whose new fund offer got announced on Tuesday, is retirement solution oriented scheme offering an option of investing as per an investment plan as based on risk profile, a statement said. The scheme offers an option to avail term insurance up to rupees 50 lakh on SPI system investment plan and a facility for regular cash flow in dividend option, which can be used for retirement planning, an official statement said. Most of us give serious thought to retirement planning when it is too late to build a sizable corpus for our needs. This may lead to be compromised lifestyle and emergency during medical situation. Starting allocation, albeit in a small way, earlier from the age of 30 years and increasing it over time gives a smart headway for the corpus to grow exponentially, its managing director and chief executive Vinay M. Thon said. Thank you.
Okay, over to Brother Dominic. Brother, are you there? Brother Dominic. It's not there. Then more to Farzin. Farzin. Farzin is also not there, absent. Then who is next? 15. Who is 14? 15?
Good morning, sir.
Your roll number, ma?
15.
Okay, proceed.
Okay. Good morning, sir. Myself, Iftimol Allison, and I'm here to talk about the topic
Ma,
18,000.
switch on your video.
Sir, I have some network issues. So is that fine to switch off and talk?
Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir. So I'll be talking about the 18,000 bank branches to be under CTS by September. As part of further improving, speeding up and foolproofing the payments and settlement systems, the Reserve Bank of India said that the 18,000 odd branches which are still outside the centralized clearing system called check transaction system will come under it by September. The check transaction system, that is a CTS, is in use since 2010 and it covers around 150,000 bank branches across 3 check processing grids. But only a few, that is 18,000 more branches are outside this formal clearing arrangement. So the RBI is taking up initiatives to bring this 18,000 under the CTS to bring in operational efficiency in paper-based clearing and making the process of collection and settlement of checks faster, resulting in better customer service. And also adding to this, the central bank has also said that they will be setting up a 24/7 helpline for digital payment services to secure them more against fraud and phishing. All these services are made in order to build the trust and confidence within the customers and also to ensure the customer satisfaction towards the bank. So that's all about this RBI shifting. Thank you, sir.
Over to Jacob.
Yes, sir.
Ah.
Good morning. Credit Suisse pays $600 million to settle US mortgage case. Credit Suisse Group agreed to pay $600 million to settle a lawsuit over mortgage securities that collapsed in the 2008 financial crisis. And according that logs in an expected hit to its profit, the BIA Insurance Corporation said that it had reached an agreement after a post-trial court decision that ordered the Swiss bank to pay about $604 million in damages. Credit Suisse is expecting to post a fourth quarter loss when it reports earnings on February 18 after setting aside $850 million for US legal cases, including MBIA and booking a $450 million impairment on a hedge fund investment. The settlement amount of $600 million is substantially less than the earlier guidance of up to approximately $680 million and has been fully provisioned for in 1/4 quarter 2020. MBIA shares rallied after the news of almost 10% in pre-market trading. Last month, the New York State judge presiding over the case ruled against Credit Suisse in the 2009 suit brought by the bond insurance over alleged misinterpretations of the quality of loans underlying residential mortgage-backed securities it guaranteed in 2007.
Okay,
MBIA
Jacob.
had
Okay, Jacob. Move on to Jason. Jason?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So good morning, everybody. I will be presenting on Tata Boeing Aerospace Limited to manufacture 737 vertical fin structures. Mumbai. Hyderabad-based Tata Boeing Aerospace Limited will manufacture complex vertical fin structures for the Boeing 737 family of airplanes, announced US major aerospace Boeing on Friday. Currently, the joint venture company manufactures aerostructures for Boeing's Apache helicopters, secondary structures, and vertical spar boxes in Telangana. The vertical fin is a complex structural part, and the new production line will utilize cutting-edge robotics and automation in manufacturing, said a press release issued by Boeing. The expansion will create additional employment opportunities and enable skill development as well. Spread over 14,000 square meters, the state-of-the-art facility has been producing aerostructures for Boeing's AH-64 Apache helicopter, including secondary structures and vertical spar boxes for customers worldwide.
Okay, Jason, over to Jibish.
Yes, sir. Okay, so my topic for today is India's market capitalization gains most after Hong Kong in 2021. So basically, Hong Kong piped India to the top position with a market capital of 13.41% to $7.39 trillion. So basically, we have the other US and China competing along with them, where US gained 7.07% with 45.06 trillion US dollars, and China with 6.14% with $11.57 trillion. So basically, it was the global liquidity inflows where it set a new record for the market, with Sensex crossing 50,000 mark, whereas Nifty crossed 15,000 mark. And so the India stock markets fell from 8.11% to $2.72 trillion. And Hong Kong piped India, like I told before, to from 13.41% to 7.39 trillion. So
Okay,
basically,
Jibish, enough. 9. Then over to Jitu. Jitu. Daman Jitu Augustine. Absent. Then Jomal Joshi. Jomal Joshi. Once again absent. Then Jojo Verghese. Jojo Verghese. Absent. Jinto Vincent. Roll number 22. Absent. 23. Then 24.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yes.
Good morning, everyone. Today I'll be talking on Bitcoin finds new momentum as price approach US dollar 40,000 mark. The world's largest cryptocurrency was up 1.1% to US dollar 39,012 as of 9:57 a.m. in London after briefly surpassing US dollar 40,000 this Saturday. Bitcoin is back near 40,000 on the heels of global market rally as investors grew increasingly confident in reflection and fresh US stimulus. The world's largest cryptocurrency was up by 1.1% to 39,012 as of 9:57 a.m. in London after briefly surpassing 40,000 on Saturday. It is now about 7% below an all-time high set in early January. After briefly dipped this morning, Bitcoin is climbing once again as enthusiasts store the digital asset as a hedge against inflation and store of value in a world awash with stimulus and rampant central bank money printing. Prominent economists, including Lawrence Summers, have recently raised concern that President Joe Biden's $1.9 trillion virus relief package may risk overheating the economy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Finally, Lino Maria Anthony. Is absent. Okay, now dear students, I'm going to ask the question. You have to put the message in chat to me directly, not in everyone. You have to send to me directly. Okay, be ready. What, Sanoj, you are sleeping? Sanoj?
No, sir, I'm awake, sir. I'm not
Okay,
sleeping.
okay. Okay, my question now. This question, except Neeraj, everyone should answer. Neeraj, you should not answer this question. Okay. So, according to Neeraj, he mentioned that Lakshmi Vilas Bank is taken over by another bank. Okay. Which bank is ready to take over the Lakshmi Vilas Bank?
DBS.
Don't tell Ma, you have to chat.
Sorry, sir.
You have to put in the chat box. To me directly, commerce and management. You have to mention full form, never mention short form.